Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to have you guys here at this event. And yeah, welcome to the Art of Writing Meaningful UX Portfolio Reviews. We're so excited to have you guys here. I'm Fanny, and I'll be your MC today. This event is brought to you by ADPList and UXfolio, two organizations passionate about empowering UX designers and building strong design communities. Today's session is all about portfolio feedback that makes a difference. Réka will start with a quick overview about portfolio reviews, and then we'll get to see how it works in practice. We'll also go through a couple of examples so we see the exact processes of our speakers today. And our speakers today are actually Jaspreet, Thakrar, a UX manager at BBC with years of mentoring experience. Jaspreet, would you mind introducing yourself and ADPList in a few words? We can't hear you yet.
Just realized I'm on mute. So, hey everyone, I'm a UX manager at PwC, where I work on financial services products from ideation to delivery. So my journey has kind of taken me through project management, product management before I found my true calling in UX. So throughout the last year, I discovered my passion really lies in helping designers grow. And I've become a mentor on ADPList. So I have my own experience kind of switching careers into UX, and I have a lot of knowledge to share. So I find a lot of joy actually in helping designers level up their skills. So a little bit about ADPList. It actually stands for Amazing Design People. So if you're wondering, what the acronym is, it's a global mentorship community founded in 2021 with a mission to democratize mentorship for all. It has grown to a thriving community of over 30,000 mentors who collectively contributed to more than 100 million minutes of mentorships across 160 countries. The platform offers high-quality mentoring and coaching services across various industries, empowering millions of professionals to grow, learn, and achieve their career goals.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Jaspreet. And now we also have another speaker with us, Réka, who is a talented product designer and portfolio expert from UXfolio. Réka, would you also introduce yourself and UXfolio in a few words?
Absolutely. Thanks, Fanny, for the intro, and thank you all for joining today. So my name is Réka, and I'm a product designer at UXfolio. And over the past 2 years at UXfolio, I've had the chance to review hundreds of portfolios and help designers build ones that truly stand out. And through this, I've seen how important feedback is for portfolio builders. At UXfolio, we've also interviewed recruiters and hiring managers to understand what they are looking for in portfolios, and this has given us valuable insights into how to help designers meet industry expectations. So I'm super excited to share my tips and thoughts on reviewing portfolios, and I hope this session will inspire you to write truly meaningful reviews. And before handing it back, I'd like to say a few words about UXfolio for those who aren't familiar with it. So it is a no-code portfolio builder tool with a mission to help designers build career-defining portfolios. And what's unique about UXfolio is that it's tailored for UX professionals, offering UX-specific features like case study generator, built-in device mockups, thumbnail designer, Figma prototype embed, and a lot more. So with UXfolio, designers can focus on the content without having to worry about the building part. And with that, it's back at you, Fanny.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself and UXfolio as well. We're going to dive in soon, but before that, we actually wanted to hear from you guys. I will start a poll in a second, and we would like to hear how often you give feedback. So please give me a second until I start it. We would love to hear from you guys to see how often you guys give feedback. And until you guys answer, I will also give you a couple of housekeeping notes. This is a live webinar, which is amazing because you can ask us questions here in the session. And at the end of the session, we'll go through your questions as much as we can. So please send your questions to the Q&A section. You can also use the chat, but we'll go through the Q&A in the end. So if you would like to ask questions from Réka and Jaspreet, please drop them in the Q&A section. You can, of course, take notes throughout the session. However, there is a recording going on, and we will share it with you guys afterwards. So if you miss anything or you would like to reference it again, then just look at it in the following days. All right, I can see you guys already answered. This is really interesting to see that most of you guys give feedback occasionally, and also a lot of you give feedback rarely. It's super interesting to hear from you. Okay, I'll end the poll now because we're going to get started. Réka, the floor is yours. Please tell us about meaningful portfolio feedback.
Yeah, sure. Let me start the screen sharing. All right. So, portfolio reviews have the power to shape how designers present themselves and help them unlock new opportunities. So whether you're a mentor or reviewing portfolios casually, this presentation will give you insights and strategies on how to write reviews that make a real difference.
Réka, sorry for interrupting. Can you share your slides in a bigger format, please?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I can, I guess, change the format. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Thank you so much now.
Yeah, of course. So before we dive in, let me share a personal story that illustrates why this matters so much. So a few weeks ago, a designer reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked me to review his portfolio. He told me that after months of applying for jobs, he hadn't landed a single offer. And I could feel his frustration in his messages, so I decided to help. And after sending him the review, he started implementing my suggestions. And over the next couple of weeks, I saw his portfolio transform. And one morning, I woke up to a message from him saying that he'd finally landed a job. And that's the kind of impact a meaningful review can have on someone's career. So today, we'll explore how to make reviews truly meaningful by focusing on 3 key areas. What elements to cover in a review? We'll break down the key components of a portfolio that every review should address. Then, how to address some common mistakes designers make in their portfolios. Here, we'll also explore how to help designers fix them. And then, what makes feedback truly effective? We'll discuss some frameworks and techniques to make your feedback more effective. And let's start by breaking down the key components that recruiters and hiring managers look for in a portfolio, ensuring you address them in your review as well. So first, a recruiter typically begins by checking the navigation to get a sense of what the portfolio consists of. A clear and intuitive navigation is key to making a strong first impression. The navigation should clearly indicate which page the viewer is currently on and provide an easy way to move between pages. It's also helpful to show the designer's name and logo consistently across all pages, as this makes it easier for recruiters to remember whose portfolio they're viewing, especially when they have multiple portfolios open. Additionally, designers should include a resume link, which opens their resume in a new tab. This gives viewers a quick way to access their professional details without disrupting the browsing experience. The headline is another important component. It acts as a hook to grab the attention of recruiters and hiring managers. A strong headline is specific and clearly communicates the designer's personal value proposition. It's essential for the headline to be concise, ideally around 60 characters, and additional details can be reserved for the About page. And to stand out instantly, designers can tailor their headline to the specific role they're applying for. Incorporating keywords or skills from the job description is a smart way to show alignment with the recruiter's needs right from the start. And the heart of every portfolio is the work section, which consists of the case study cards. And regarding the number of case studies, it is recommended to include between 3 to 5, but this depends on the career level. So for entry-level designers, 2, 3 strong case studies are usually enough, while more experienced designers are expected to have between 3 and 6. And case study cards serve as book covers for case studies. So they should grab the attention of the viewers and make them want to explore the case study. And strong case study cards should have visually appealing thumbnail images showcasing the key screens of the product. And let me show you these examples here. And they should also have a title, which is more than the name of the product. It should also give a hint about the project's focus or outcome. And the subtitle, which can provide more details about the project. It's also important to make these cards consistent by using the same mockups and background styles to achieve a cohesive and polished look on the homepage. And let's see the case studies themselves, as these are the core of any portfolio. So here's what makes a strong case study structure. It should begin with a compelling hero section. This includes the visual teaser of the final outcome, an engaging title, an informative subtitle, and this sets the tone for the whole case study. Then the overview part sets the stage for the story that's about to unfold. It should present the context of the project, the problem, and the solution at a high level. This makes viewers interested in how the designer got there. And then comes the process, which is the heart of the case study. This shows how the designer moved from insights to solutions, highlighting the key stages of the process. And the final sections should focus on the outcomes and the impact of the project. And adding learnings and next steps is a good way to show one's ability to reflect and grow. The next key component is the About page. This is the designer's chance to make a personal connection with hiring managers. It should balance the professional profile with the personal side, as hiring people often look here to see whether the applicant is a good cultural fit for their team. The About page should present the designer's professional journey, focusing on relevant work experiences and skills. And for career switchers, past experiences can also be included here, but it's crucial to emphasize the transferable skills that relate to design. This section is also a great place to showcase notable awards, achievements, and even testimonials from clients or colleagues. And since cultural fit is an important aspect, designers should include a brief mention of their personal interests and hobbies to give a glimpse of their personality beyond the work. And after convincing hiring people with both the work and the personality, it's time for them to get in touch. And contact information should be easy to find. They can be included in the navigation and the footer of the portfolio, so hiring people have access to these from every page. And these should include a professional email address that they can copy or a mail to link, and links to professional social media profiles like LinkedIn or Behance. And let me show you how that looks on this portfolio. And adding a contact section at the end of case studies is also a great strategy to motivate viewers to reach out. So now that we've covered the key elements of a portfolio, let's discuss some common mistakes to help your mentees fix them. And headlines are crucial in nailing the first impression. Designers often use generic headlines like, "I'm a UX designer passionate about solving problems." But this does nothing to hiring managers. And to fix this, you can suggest highlighting the key skills or area of specialization of the designer, relevant industry experience, or even past roles, and location if it's relevant for the role. The goal is to stand out from other candidates. What can also make or break the first impression is the portfolio's design. While portfolios should prioritize content, they also need to look polished and professional. And one of the most common visual design mistakes in portfolios is inconsistency. So encourage designers to define a color palette for their portfolio and a font pair. One font for headings and a more standard sans serif font for body text. And UXfolio makes this super easy. It offers curated color palettes and font pairings with the option to create custom ones as well. The next mistake we often see in portfolios is too much text. Hiring people don't have the time to read huge walls of text, so we recommend making case studies scannable by using consistent headings, concise paragraphs, and supporting visuals for each paragraph. And while adding, while adding visuals is a great idea, throwing in visuals just for the sake of adding visuals is not a good idea. So if you spot visuals added only as decor with no context in a case study, recommend adding mockups and annotations to provide context. For example, before-after images with the differences highlighted, or screens with arrows showing user flows are engaging ways to present designs. And UXfolio helps with this too, as it has high-quality device mockups, so you can just copy and paste your screens from Figma right inside the mockups in UXfolio. And I have already touched upon this point earlier, so designers often forget to include the impact of their work at the end of case studies and only show the final screens, but that is usually not enough to convince hiring managers. So suggest your mentees adding a section at the end of case studies highlighting measurable outcomes, such as improved product or business metrics. And if metrics aren't available, they can include qualitative results, like user quotes from usability tests or client testimonials as well. And with the key elements covered and the common mistakes spotted, it's time to focus on how to articulate feedback in the most effective way. So let's see what makes feedback effective. And first of all, you should balance criticism with encouragement. The feedback sandwich framework can be applied to portfolio reviews. What this means is that you should start with the positive aspects and then cover the areas of improvement, finally, and on a positive note. Feedback should also be specific. And while general feedback on a portfolio as a whole is valuable, it is also important to be specific and point out exactly what we are talking about. For example, instead of saying some sections are too text-heavy, you should show those problematic sections. And finally, effective feedback is also actionable. This means that we should also offer a solution to the problems we pointed out, so the portfolio's owner knows what to do in order to solve those problems. And based on these principles, we've built UXfolio's review feature, which makes the process of reviewing portfolios streamlined and effective. How it works is that the portfolio owner can share the portfolio in review mode with mentors or anyone they would like to get feedback from, and they can give async feedback directly on the portfolio. Review mode has features like an overview section, commenting, and reactions to help make your feedback balanced, specific, and actionable. And now I'll show you how this works on a portfolio created by one of our users. Just let me switch tabs real quick. Here we go. So imagine that one of your mentees has sent you their portfolio in review mode. Now, this is what you see when you open it. Here, you just click on Start Reviewing, and then you can dive right in. So first of all, you can write an overview for the whole portfolio. And this part is divided into positive aspects and areas of improvement. So you don't have to think about how to structure your review. And this stays the same for the whole portfolio, even if you open a case study page. And if you want to give specific feedback on a specific section, then you can add a comment. And comments also have tags, which you can use. And this helps designers organize the feedback they received from multiple reviewers. If you really love something, you can also add a reaction. This is just a fun way to encourage designers. And if you don't want to get distracted by these elements, you can switch to view only. And you can review the portfolio like this and then switch back to commenting mode. And when you're done with your review, you can press preview and send review, which will show you your review's summary. And then you can send it out and will notify the portfolio's owner about it. So this is how easy it is to use UXfolio's review feature. And now let me switch back to the presentation. Here we go. Because today we have a special offer for you. So with the code you can see here, you get a discount on UXfolio Premium, which unlocks advanced customization features like custom colors, custom fonts, animations. You can also use review mode, the thumbnail designer. You can connect a custom domain to your portfolio and do a lot more. So if you want to give it a try, sign up on uxfol.io, and when you're ready to upgrade, then redeem the discount. And remember, a meaningful review can do more than improve a portfolio. It could actually change someone's career. So make your next review matter. And thank you for listening. And with that, it's back to you, Fanny.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This was super insightful. And now let's turn these learnings into how it looks in real life. And I would like to pass the mic to Jaspreet to walk us through her process of giving portfolio feedback and portfolio reviews. And then also let's see a couple of examples how you would approach that.
Thank you, Fanny. So I wanted to actually start with how to sort of set the scene for giving feedback. What I like to do with my mentees is try to understand the background of the mentee a bit, kind of understand what their motivations are, maybe why they're looking for a new role, a bit of a more like holistic approach, asking a lot of open-ended questions about their job search and gathering insights about them. Also, why it's important for them to kind of leave their current position. Is there a growth opportunity? Are they trying to transition into design? There could be a bunch of different reasons why they're kind of, updating their portfolio. So just a bit of context usually helps. And also, what are some of the things that they enjoy about UX? Like what gets them excited about this field? It's always nice to kind of see like people's passion. So totally agree with being specific, being actionable about the feedback that you give. The last one I did want to add was be encouraging. So ask them how they're feeling throughout the session and always leave them on a positive note, like we mentioned before. We know like the current job market is a very tough one. So designers, especially juniors, may be kind of looking for some encouragement, maybe looking for a little bit more guidance. So just encouraging them to kind of think about what makes them stand out and how they can kind of use their skill sets in their next role. And also meet them where they are. So if there's, things that maybe they can improve on, or if there's like upskilling opportunities, maybe there's an opportunity to kind of provide tools or tips or tricks that they can try to kind of get to that next point in their portfolio or in their careers as well. So I would love to actually look into a portfolio now. So I'm just going to share my screen. 1 second. Okay. So we're going to focus on 3 different areas of the portfolio for the sake of, the review. So the first area will be the home page. So we mentioned earlier that, it's great to have a bit of almost like a tagline or a headline about yourself, maybe something that makes you stand out. Maybe it's something that you're passionate about. I feel that this one could definitely be stronger in terms of it being generic. It kind of just includes a little bit about the title and location, but it'd be very interesting to kind of hear like, what is it that they enjoy about UX? What makes them, special in this area? So I would actually suggest just maybe 1 or 2 sentences about the designer. Any thoughts, Réka?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Jaspreet. So this headline still needs some improvement. We find out 2 important things from it. So we know that Jenny is a UX designer and that she's based in Berlin, and for some roles, this information might be relevant. But in order for her to stand out in the competitive job market, she definitely needs to add more details here.
For sure. If we scroll down, it looks like she has about 4 case studies here, which is the right amount of case studies to have. It's not too overwhelming. It kind of shows enough detail. What I will say is anytime you're kind of creating your case studies, always think about it from top down, because obviously that's how we scroll. So if you're, looking to kind of create your most impactful or your most important case study, that should be reflected on the top. So it has a higher chance of being clicked by the hiring manager. You can also test this yourself using analytics on your portfolio. I know UXfolio allows that integration. So it's interesting to kind of get some of those details and almost test out your portfolio to see like what areas people are clicking most on. So if I just click into the first case study here, homepage redesign, enhancing user experience and engagement. So this doesn't really give me too much about, what the product really is. I understand it's a redesign, but what is the actual product? And it looks like, maybe we go into that a little bit later here. So it looks like it's a marketplace. She does mention the goal. She does mention the role, tools, team, and timeline. What I really like to see actually on the top right away is impact. Impact can be either metrics if you have it, but it can also be, like you mentioned before, Réka, like quotes or even things that people have kind of said that helped them as a result of some of the work that you did. So I really actually like to see that up front, just so I know like the work that I'm going to be seeing actually had some sort of impact on the business. So if I look here, sometimes it's okay to put images like this kind of towards the top because it gives you a little bit of a preview of what you're going to see later. So I don't really like have too much of an issue with that, but it shouldn't be something where it's like completely out of the blue. I would maybe pick a different screen here, maybe one that's a little bit more like kind of exciting or engaging, or like kind of shows like a more complicated screen, or something that's a little bit more like visually appealing, just to kind of, almost like get the hiring manager excited about what you did and then what we're going to see later. The other thing, which I really like actually about UXfolio, is that it lets you put the process timeline here. This is actually a feature that they have within the tool. So it makes it really easy to kind of click through. So sometimes, depending on the role, some hiring managers might be only interested, let's say, in your designs, right? Like maybe they're hiring more for like a UI person or like a product designer. So this actually allows them to kind of jump to different pages without having to actually scroll the whole way. So I personally think that's like a great feature and one of the like kind of benefits of UXfolio. So if we go here, we have the first stage of discover. It looks like they've done a couple different activities. So obviously you have to find the balance between having your portfolio show the work that you did, but not so much that it's like overwhelming for whoever's reading it. But in this case, I would actually like to see a little bit more of showing me their work. So whether it's like screenshots, whether it's just, a couple images about the A/B test that they did, even guerrilla testing, maybe they took a few photos of that. It just brings it to life a little bit more. And then that's obviously being shown later on with like the key insights that they show. But here I would actually just want to see a little bit more flavor. It doesn't need to be super long. It doesn't need to have a lot of text, just a little something. Any thoughts on this, Réka, just from your experience?
Yes, I agree with you. And if you can scroll back to the hero section a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing, if I'm really just a bit more towards the top. Yeah, thanks. So if I'm being nitpicky, then this visual in the hero section is a bit too small, and the details get lost. So I would make sure that the image here is the right size for the viewers to see the screen properly. And so the overview part should serve as a hook for recruiters and hiring managers. And it could use the outcome, as you said, as a teaser to make viewers interested in how the designer actually achieved those results. So that's a great idea, Jaspreet. And regarding this image, I also agree that it's a little bit out of place. And if they already added a visual teaser in the hero, then maybe I wouldn't put another one here. And if we look at the first step of the process, I also miss some sort of visual from it. And also there are some spacing issues as well. So the key insights is closer to the discover part than the actual insights. So when working on a portfolio, always make sure to get every detail as perfect as you can, because it showcases your design skills at the end of the day.
Yep, totally agree. I've definitely seen a few portfolios where there's like some misspellings, or maybe, like you said, the spacing is off, or there's a random letter, or maybe even the difference between like English, British English versus US English, the S always kind of trips people up. So even thinking about it from that perspective, like just make sure that you don't distract the hiring manager with any of these small details that you kind of haven't addressed. Because it just makes it look unprofessional more than anything, right? And we know that your portfolio represents you as a designer, so you really want to put your best foot forward and really focus on like the details of that. Okay, so if we go into define, we have a couple personas here. I like that, we can actually zoom in. Some websites don't actually let you do that, so it's good to be able to see some of those details. It is pretty text heavy, but, based off of, like, it seems like they've done an extensive amount of research here, so, there could be a reason why there's a lot here. In terms of recommendations. So this is kind of almost coming a little bit out of the blue for me, because I wonder like how they sort of came to these themes of recommendations. I would be wondering, like, is it based off of which part of the research, how did they kind of come to this conclusion? So there's nothing wrong with having recommendations, or ideas of how you want to move forward, but it has to be like kind of explained as part of your story.
I agree regarding the recommendations. I think it's great that these recommendations are presented visually as well, but they would need some extra context for them to be valuable in this story.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of like removing the pictures, like, was there a reason? Like, did they get feedback from the users? Was it that, maybe actually they say you shouldn't, sometimes using images where like people are looking at you can be a little bit like intimidating on a website. So sometimes people purposely choose images where they're like looking away, or maybe looking towards a certain text, so it like moves your eye in that area. So there could be like a bunch of different reasons, right? But we don't know that as a hiring manager. And also, we don't have the privilege of actually speaking to the person about their portfolio. So you really want to actually tell the story, take your time with it, and really like kind of explain your decisions. Okay, so if we go into the design area, we can see there's a bit of an explanation, how they kind of went about some of their designs. And it looks like there's a video here, but we don't really, I'm not really sure how this kind of fits in with sort of like the rest of this. So if we look at the before, and the after, I think there's definitely a better way of showing this, whether it's kind of maybe using little lines to the separate areas and labeling them and saying like this was updated as a result of this. And you could even use metrics. So like, let's say 3 out of 5 users that you spoke to said that they really didn't like this image. That could be part of your redesign. And you can say, well, based off of feedback, this is like what I actioned on. So showing the before and after, like, I think is valuable, especially for redesigns, but it needs to be explained a little bit more, like why you're making the updates.
Exactly. Just like I said in the presentation earlier, this is one of the common mistakes designers make. So this is the case of images with no context.
Yeah.
So it would be a lot more valuable if the designer used annotations on these images showing the changes that they made and explaining the reasons behind the design decisions made.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, there's quite a difference between actually the two designs that they have here. So I think putting in more of that research flavor would definitely help kind of explain a little bit more of why it needed to change so drastically as well. So if we go down to testing, so I like that there's some metrics here. They're nice and bold as well. Hiring managers love metrics. Like, if I can't emphasize that enough, it's just one of the things, especially in this kind of environment that we're in, it's really important to understand like the business value that UX provides. And one of the ways you can do that is by testing it and showing the numbers. So I really, I appreciate that they did that. So again, here, I think there's like maybe a missing methodology here. How many people did they interact with? How did they interact with them? What were some of the things that they're testing for? I think there's also like a little bit of a lack of information on this slide as well, kind of similar to the research that we saw earlier.
Yes, for the testing, it's always a great idea to add user quotes because those add a lot of credibility and authenticity to the case study and to the story. And also, for the testing results, it's a great idea to create a visual which highlights the problematic areas that came out from the testing.
That's a good idea. Yeah, to show like some of the kind of pain points that, came out of the testing. And also show the iteration, right? Like you've done the testing, but what did you then update your design? How did you actually incorporate some of this testing into that next phase of the project? Saying numbers for the sake of numbers isn't going to help. It's also about kind of showing how you action them as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I do like the outcomes part here.
Yes. Yep.
I think this is a very strong part of this case study. And
Yeah.
after that, I can see that there's also a learning section, which I also really like and always encourage designers to add.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is one of the areas where I've noticed a lot of people don't put it. They don't put this area. They don't also kind of also explain like the results of the work that you did. All maybe the next steps of what kind of happens after this. Maybe you're moving on to a next phase. Maybe it's actually helped the business, generate more revenue. Maybe it's helped improve a process. There's like a lot, there's a reason why you were hired on to this project. There's a reason why the business needed you to solve this problem. So like show what you actually delivered on. And I think that's also something to keep in mind. Like this is the last thing that a hiring manager is going to see. So having a strong kind of ending to your portfolio is really important. You never want to leave on like a negative note. Sometimes I see people saying things like, oh, if I had more time, I would add this, or, if I had more resourcing, I could have done this. And it's like, to be honest, you should always try to take a problem and come to a solution. That's like what people do as a UX designers, right? So always think about it like, how did you actually kind of overcome some of the challenges? Like, what did you learn from that? And like, how can you actually take that forward into your next project as well?
Yeah, and adding next steps, like suggestions for further improvements or further research or testing is also a great idea. But
Yeah.
I really like the contact section here. It's a great strategy to add this at the end of case studies because if a hiring manager was convinced by the work, then this is a great time for them to actually get in touch.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it takes you directly to the email as well. So I wonder if you could actually put your email here as well, just the address, because I don't actually have a mail set up on my computer. So I would have to find their email another way. And this is also good. Like this, I know that this is a new feature I think UXfolio came up with recently, as far as I know. This is really good to kind of encourage people to sort of continue looking into your case studies. This is why it's always really important to use engaging thumbnails so people do want to click into your different case studies. And yeah, and it looks like you have your footer is here as well.
Yeah, so I think the ending of this case study is pretty strong. The process itself could be improved and made more visual.
Yeah.
But I think the ending is great. Should we check another case study in this portfolio, Jaspreet? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Let's go for it. So, I mean, my natural inclination is to click this one, but we already kind of saw a redesign. So Actually looking at some of these thumbnails, they're a little bit inconsistent as well, I would say, in terms of, like this one really kind of looks very different compared to the others. So a little bit of consistency would be good here.
Yes, exactly. That's what I wanted to highlight here as well. So this is why it is important to be consistent with the design of case study cards. Just like I mentioned earlier, if you see the backgrounds are actually consistent and also the layouts, but what's different is the mock-up style. So the first two have realistic mock-ups, but those are not the same either. And these screens are just the plain screenshots. They don't have any mock-ups applied. So it's very important to use the same mock-up style as well in thumbnails.
Yeah, I agree. It just looks cleaner. That's all it is. I mean, like we said, it's all about engaging, kind of drawing people in, and humans like consistency. We like things to kind of match. So, okay, so if we go into Money Tree, so this one, they have their page there. Okay, so overview values. Okay, interesting. I've actually never seen values on a portfolio before. Usually it's more like problem or kind of maybe some of the issues that you're dealing with. So that's like a different sort of approach for sure.
What I like and what instantly caught my eye is that it uses almost the same layout as in the previous case study. So that is good.
You know what though, I actually really like to see what the team is that you worked with as well. So whether you worked with another team of designers, if you had some business stakeholders, that shows collaboration to hiring managers. One of the things that I think can be difficult, especially if you're working with another UX person, is then showing like what was the value that you provided. So always try to use like I language in your portfolio. Even if you did work within a team, like really showing the impact that you made with the work that you did is like what's really important in your case study. Okay, so it looks like we have another kind of mock-up here. This one's a little bit more interesting, I would say, than kind of, and it also, the person kind of holding it. I kind of like the shot here. Okay, so this one actually doesn't have the process map on the top. So I would definitely add that in just for scannability, makes it a little bit easier to read through. Okay, so we started out with user journey. So up until this moment, I'm not sure I understand what the problem is that we're trying to solve with this product or this idea. So really focusing on problems or opportunities, maybe through research, or maybe you've heard feedback from somebody, really rooting it in that makes it a stronger story.
Yes, so this case study is missing the problem statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Or any sort of starting point. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, research, like, sometimes, especially with when you're first starting out in this field, you don't always get the opportunity to work with a business stakeholder or with a company. So you might end up kind of coming up with your own case study ideas. And, I totally understand that everybody has to start somewhere, right? But I think even with that, there's ways of validating a problem or finding an opportunity, even if it is just a concept that you're kind of coming up with. Like there's still ways to kind of research some of those things.
Yeah.
Okay. For it. Oh, sorry, I think I interrupted you. Oh, okay, no worries. So yeah, I mean, I think the same kind of feedback is going to sort of apply for the rest of this as well, in terms of sort of explaining a little bit more about what the problem is, how that kind of fits into the solution. Even this might not be the most appropriate layout for showing your wireframes. I think it's like great to show iteration with wireframes. So definitely like maybe considering putting them like more in a row and then kind of explaining what we're seeing on the screens. And, there's like different ways of kind of showcasing that. And UI design, looks like we're moving right into UI design. I would expect some sort of like testing or something to have happen between the UX and the UI.
Yes, this makes me think that this is not a real world project.
Yeah,
Maybe this
right.
is just a concept project because
Yeah.
this is a lot of stages that a real world project has.
Yeah. And I think it's like completely fine to have those kind of projects, like, you know, especially if you're just starting out, or maybe that's actually part of maybe like the degree that you're doing, or if you're doing like a boot camp and stuff, like you do tend to do concept ideas. But yeah, always try to make it as real as possible because, you know, in the real world, when you're applying these different processes, like you're not always gonna kind of move in from one phase to another. Like there's always something in between. So just kind of consider that. The other thing to kind of consider is, you know, if we're looking at this compared to the first case study, right? Like this case study was definitely a lot stronger than this one. And it makes me wonder, is there even a reason to have this case study on here if it's not actually representing your best work? You really shouldn't worry too much about like, oh, I need to have 4 case studies, for instance. Maybe in this case, you should just have 3, and those are like the strongest, and those are the ones that you can show that you've done like the full, you know, breadth of the UX process. And you know, maybe that's obviously a personal decision to kind of think about, you know, those like what kind of represents you best.
Yeah, this is a very good point, Jaspreet. So you can never know which project the recruiter or hiring manager will open first.
Yeah.
So if you have one that you are not proud of, then you should just not include it in your portfolio.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason maybe you would include it is if it was like a really cool concept, or if you had some maybe like amazing visuals or something. There should always be a reason why, like you're, you know, putting this on your, this is precious real estate here with your portfolio. So you should definitely think of it that way. Should we look into maybe like the about area?
That would actually be lovely, and I love that we went into detail about this portfolio, but we're actually running a bit out of time, and the questions
Sorry about
are
that.
good.
Sorry
No, no,
about
no.
that.
I loved everything you guys mentioned, and I'm super happy that we went into this portfolio. And I'm sure you guys have so much more left to say. So I'm so sorry for
No, it's okay. Hopefully that was helpful. You know, kind of going through it step by step, like sort of looking at maybe from a hiring manager's perspective, like what they would be seeing. So anytime you're sort of, just for the audience in general, anytime you're either giving feedback on a portfolio or creating one yourself, always think about it from the hiring manager's perspective, like what is going to be valuable for them. And, you know, either action on those, or let your mentees know that feedback as well.
This is an amazing point. Thank you so much for bringing this up. And then we can transition into the Q&A. The questions started pouring in around the end of the session, which is amazing. So let's start with the first question is very UXfolio focused. So I would start with the second question maybe, and then go on from there. Alina asked, what are your thoughts on summarizing the case study in a video format for recruiters that don't want to read the whole case study, for example? What do you guys think?
It's a way to stand out for sure. Not a lot of people do that. So if you're comfortable actually summarizing your information in a video, that could be nice to have different sorts of formats, you know, of getting that information to a hiring manager. I think if you're comfortable doing it, it's worth testing for sure.
Yes, adding interactive elements is always a great idea. So a video can really make a case study engaging, but I wouldn't use only a video. So I would try to still build a case study and include videos inside it, explaining certain points.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Then the next question, how much time does it usually take for you to review a portfolio? That's interesting.
So in my opinion, your portfolio is never done. So you're always going to be reviewing it. Now, if I'm reviewing it for a mentee, usually my sessions are about an hour. So those might be split into like 2 or 3 sessions sometimes, depending on updates and really understanding, you know, what I'm kind of seeing on the portfolio. So it really depends, like how long it is, how detailed it is. You know, sometimes people, the way to kind of think about this is it's completely okay for you to have a longer portfolio, especially if you're getting a review of it. You can always remove things, you can always condense it when you're getting it reviewed, but when you kind of present it to like the market, it should definitely be like in a really good state to actually do that. Which might mean removing or adding things. So it depends on the time frame, you know, like it can take anywhere from like maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes to like a couple hours, just depending on how in depth you want to go in.
It definitely depends on the length of the portfolio and the number of case studies. But if it's async feedback, then it can be done actually in less than an hour usually, especially with UXfolio's review feature, which allows you to add comments right on different sections. So that makes the process a lot smoother and quicker.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I didn't know about this feature. I'm gonna check that out for sure.
That's awesome then. Thank you for answering. Let's see the next question. How do you assess the relevance of a portfolio to a specific job or industry? That's interesting.
I think, yeah, everybody has a different opinion about this one. No two hiring managers are the same. So I think if you have like we said a little earlier, like your portfolio should show your best work. It should show the case study that has the most impact, where you maybe like had an opportunity to work on things with the business or work with customers directly. Those are the kind of case studies that are like really, really powerful. It's hard to sometimes actually almost catch everything in terms of like what sector you want to work in and like stuff like that. And it is a numbers game right now, as I'm sure all of us know in the market. So it can be a little bit tough to like adjust for every single job that you see out there. But really going back to like your story and thinking about, you know, the work that you did, like it is, you know, it is kind of more of a process anyway. So depending on the kind of experience you have, like let's say you've done med tech in the past, for instance, and like all of your case studies are med tech, you're probably going to be hired for another med tech role, right? If your case studies are maybe more financial, that's like kind of your sector. So it really depends on like the work you've done previously. But yeah, that is definitely one of the challenges, I think, like in general.
Yeah, and you can actually create multiple portfolios for different roles, and you don't have to change everything in the portfolio. You can tailor certain elements, such as the headline. So you can easily include the skills or highlight the skills from the specific job description in your headline. So you instantly stand out to a hiring manager. And you can also tailor the selection of your case studies to the specific role.
Thank you for answering. Another question is, has there been a portfolio or project that left a lasting impression on you, and what made it have a lasting impression?
I'm trying to think because I've had quite a few. So I mean, I think I might be biased here because I am more on the UX side versus like the UI and product side. For me, you know, the case studies that I really enjoy are where people kind of explain the why behind everything and sort of really get into the minutia of like details and stuff like that. Like I love seeing those. Obviously, it takes time to put those in, so I always appreciate like designers' effort when they're kind of going through and creating those sections in their case studies. But depending on the role that I'm hiring for, I kind of, you know, sort of look at different details. But for me, like I love like looking at sort of like that angle of it. That's what's made more of an impression on me. But you know, if you're more of like a UI person or a visual person, you might, you know, if you've seen a case study that's a little bit more like flashy or kind of has like cool images, that might leave a lasting impression. But for me, it's more like the research that always leaves something.
One case study that really stood out to me used visuals which were designed in the same style, and they were really informative because they had a lot of annotations on them. For example, it showed the before and after with annotations highlighting the differences, and the designer used this type of very descriptive visuals for every stage of the process, and it was really engaging.
Thank you for your answers. Let's see another question. Cynthia asked, could you give some advice on how to come up with valuable problem statements that could guide the whole project and be referred to when coming up with metrics, focus points, and so on?
Yeah, it's important to... Yeah, I'm sorry, Jaspreet. So it's important to start with a problem statement, and then after going through your process, tie back to that statement with outcomes that actually relate to that problem. So it's very important in order to have a story. And it really depends. It really depends. I would say just think about the starting point of your project. Even if you didn't have one specific problem, highlight the biggest pain point or the biggest business need that you addressed, and just create a problem statement based on that.
I think it's nice to start with like the scenario, maybe explain, what the current environment is, whether you've gotten feedback from customers, whether, the business has identified an issue. There could problems come from all sorts of, routes. So really starting out with the scenario, kind of setting the scene a little bit, and then kind of using that to then come up with a statement or even a set of statements. You might have multiple issues, right, that you're going through, but always root it back to like, again, the why, like, why are we trying to solve this issue?
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. And thank you, Cynthia, for the question as well. I think we have time for one more question, and then that will conclude today's session. Akosh asked, you mentioned asking some questions from the person whose portfolio you're reviewing before you get started. What are those questions?
So I always ask things like, tell me about yourself in terms of your job title, tell me about your past history, why are you looking to leave your role? A lot of like kind of getting to know the person. I think it helps to give feedback when you know a little bit about the person, you're not just coming into it cold. So some people, a lot of the people actually that I mentor kind of come from a different career. So it's always helpful for me to know those things, because then there's like transferable skills that can be integrated in their portfolio. So I always try to think like, how can we use the strengths of, whoever I'm speaking to kind of then be represented in the case study. So I just like to get to know people a little bit before. So a lot of just open-ended kind of communication with your mentee. And also what their goals are. That's the other thing. Like, what is their goal, in updating the portfolio?
Awesome. Réka, would you like to add anything or?
Yeah, I think it's also important to ask what role they are looking for so that we can give tailored feedback.
Yeah, for sure. That as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. I'm sorry we didn't have time to go through all of them, but that is why we would like to continue this conversation with you guys. We have a Discord server that you guys can join. The links are in the chat, so please refer to that. You will also find links to Jaspreet's mentoring, Jaspreet's ADPList profile, so you can get a mentoring session from her. You'll also find Réka's and Jaspreet's LinkedIns, so you can connect and ask questions from them directly. And you also have some information about UXfolio and ADPList. Thank you so much for being here and for asking amazing questions and for tuning in for this session today. We hope you're leaving with some practical tools and fresh ideas, and you got a glimpse into what makes a meaningful portfolio review. Yeah, thank you again for joining us, and let's keep working together to empower designers all around the world. Have a lovely rest of your days, and thank you so much, Jaspreet and Réka, for being here with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.